Hey everybody, good to see you and welcome to our fourth episode of Reflecting Shakespeare TV. My name is Erika and I'm a facilitator with the Old Globe's Reflecting Shakespeare program. If you've been watching us, you already know that Reflecting Shakespeare is a performing arts course that we've been bringing to men and women who are experiencing incarceration. And that our program, we incorporate games. We always read a play by William Shakespeare and try to figure out what is going on with these characters. And then we reflect on what we've read in terms of how does this relate to me? And that's a big part of what we're going to do today. So if you have some paper or a journal, if you have something to write with, now is the perfect time to go and get that ready. And also at the very end of our program, there will be instructions on how to share your writing with us if you want to. So stay tuned to the very end if that sounds interesting to you. And before we go any further, now I want to introduce our fantastic co-facilitators, Nikki and James. Hi, you two.
Hey everyone. Hi, Nikki. Hi, Erika.
Hey, so why don't you just take a couple minutes to say hello?
Awesome. I'll start this time. So hi guys, my name is Nikki. I'm a facilitator for Reflecting Shakespeare and other community programs. I was incarcerated for 25 years and I've been working with the Old Globe and Reflecting Shakespeare probably for about the past year. I love doing this with y'all. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Hey everyone. My name is James. I'm a theater director and I've been doing theater, working in prisons for about 8 years or so now.
Perfect. So let's start now the way we would start in class, in person, with our highs and lows, our check-in, we call this. So something good that happened from the past week and or something not so great that happened the past week, not necessarily in that order.
So I think for me, my low is I just have so much going on. So there's just like not literally enough time in my day. So it creates like a little bit of anxiety for me because I have more stuff that I need to get done, but I don't have the time to do it. So, but the high is I was able to testify before the assembly members yesterday on behalf of a reentry bill that we're pushing through legislation. And that was like one of the biggest dreams that I had while I was incarcerated, was to be out here and be a voice in Sacramento for our folks on the inside. So it was an absolute high, a milestone and a treat for me. So thank you.
Wow.
Right on. Thank you, Nikki. All right, I'll go next. So my low is also kind of like time related. And mine is like time right now seems to be on two tracks. Like at the start of each week, it seems on one level, it's going like really slowly, just like this. And then at exactly the same time, the other track is zooming forward. So it's like the start of the week and it goes on forever. And then all of a sudden it's the end of the week just happened. And I'm thinking, where did the time go? So that's kind of confusing to me. My high is, however, that I really like to play drums. Not necessarily really good, but I like to play drums. And I didn't want to upset my neighbors or my housemates, so I was lucky to find one of those electronic drum kits where you can play away, but you can just hear yourself through your headphones. So now I can be like a big rock star drummer, good or bad, but only I have to hear it. So that's been my high.
Cool.
That's awesome.
My low is that 2 days ago, I had a major computer meltdown and I kind of melted down along with it. I'm not so proud to say. It felt so helpless to have all of this work that we're trying to do that normally happens in person now happen basically coordinated from my computer, and then for my computer not to work. I felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me, but I'm happy to say we're back on track, as you can see, because we're recording this. And then my high is that we had a huge grant from CDCR that we applied for, and it is for programming to continue again, support programming from September of this year for like another year and a half, almost 2 years. And I really appreciate that CDCR at this time when we're not having programming inside still put out that grant for when we will. And that means that there's a commitment for that to happen. And that's really important. So for those of you watching, what were your highs and lows this past week? We have a lot of people that say it's just in the middle, and sometimes it's just a small high and a small low that you can identify, and you can just start your journaling with that. All right, you two. So we have been doing some warm-up games, just like we would be doing in class. Sometimes it feels good. Sometimes it feels a little awkward trying to get them going here here on the TV. But what have you got in store for us today, James?
All right, so let's play a game which is kind of like called superhero statues. All right, and this is a nice one for making us feel good. When I think of this game, I sometimes think about those iconic logos, like Michael Jordan and his logo for, I think, Nike, where there's that solid picture of him kind of like leaping in the air, right? And we associate that with him and his skills. So what I want us to think about is, what are your best qualities? What are the things that are kind of like your superpower? For example, are you a really good listener, or are you really compassionate maybe, or you're just a really really strong person, whatever those things might be for you. And I want you to think about an image or a pose that you could strike that might go along that thing. So this is how this is going to work. I'm going to start us off, and I'm going to say my name and strike my superhero pose that represents my power, and I'm going to ask Niki and Erika and everyone watching to then do that pose back to me. All right. Here we go. James.
All right.
1, 2, 3. James. All right, Niki, over to you to add yours.
Niki.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Niki. All right, now let's try and add mine and Niki's together. Here we go. James. Niki. All right, Erika, you're up. Go.
Erika.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Erika. All right, let's combo all those together. So me first, then Niki, then Erika. Here we go. James. Niki. Erika. Perfect. We've got those down. And now everyone watching, add yours on to that list. So we'll leave a beat for that to happen. All right.
Let's see them.
James. Niki. Erika. And at home. Yeah, nice job, nice job, nice job. Well played, people. Thanks for joining in with us, those of you watching.
It was really good to think about like what your positive superhero is, though. I like that. I miss doing it in person for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. Okay, so now that we're warmed up a little bit, let's get into some Shakespeare.
All right, cool. So last week we looked at like the Prince Harry, who was running about, he was in the bars and stuff, not living up to his father's expectations. We talked about a lot of things about like living up to expectations of some, not living up to expectations of others, and then of course even change and redemption.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that we'd bring back that same character, see him a little bit later in his life. And so last time we saw him in a play called Henry IV Part 1, and that Henry, that's his father. So our guy, the prince, has become king, and we're going to look at him in the last of the trilogy, and that play is called Henry V. Now, let's just look at some of the consequences of his younger days. Let's look at reputation.
Man, this is going to be a good one. I can feel it. I think there's a lot to relate to here, and it's definitely already speaking to me for sure.
Yeah, I hope so, that we can all get into it. So what do we remember about this character from when we met him in the last episode?
Well, I think the first thing is that like he was hanging out in the tavern and was persuaded to be involved in like some type of robbery that was also a big practical joke against like one of his friends. But then he had this speech where he told the audience like that player stuff wasn't the real him and that he was going to change one day, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So between that moment and what we're going to look at today, it's fair to say that the prince, he's grown up a bit.
But for today, his father has passed away. Henry's on the throne as King Henry V. And as kings do, he's getting advice from various official advisors. And his religious advisors have told him to claim some territories in France. So King Henry sent a letter to the royalty in France saying basically, hey, essentially some of your land is mine. And now the French ambassador is arriving with a reply from the French prince, which that actually has a title. It's called the Dauphin. That means the next in line to the French throne. So if you hear out there, if you hear that word Dauphin said, that's what we mean. It's the prince. And the way Shakespeare writes it, this Dauphin's about the same age as King Henry. So King Henry's a pretty young king at this point.
Right. When you hear the scene, you can imagine that there are probably lots of English officials present, but the only other character who speaks in this scene is the Duke of Exeter, who is Henry's uncle.
All right, cool. So I think the only thing left to cover is maybe like our reflection questions, what they're going to be inspired by these particular scenes. So let's, Erika, if you could put that up on the screen so that everybody can write it down. It's actually a 4-parter, so definitely time for some reflection here. Number 1, what expectations do others have of you because of your past? Number 2, in what specific ways have you changed? Number 3, in what ways do you want or intend to grow further? And number 4, how have you underestimated someone else's ability to change? That's some good stuff. Good stuff. So with that, let's read this. I'll read King Henry. Thank you.
Yes.
Erika will read the French ambassador. And when it comes up, James, if you don't mind, could you read the Exeter?
You got it.
Awesome. Okay, so going into King Henry. Call in the messengers sent from the Dauphin. We are all resolved.
Show up.
Now, we are well prepared to know the pleasure of our fair cousin Dauphin, for we hear your greetings is from him, not from the king.
May it please your majesty to give us leave freely to render what we have in charge, or shall we sparingly show you far off the Dauphin's meaning and our embassy?
We are no tyrant, but a Christian king, until whose grace our passion is as subject, as are our wretches fettered in our prisons. Therefore, with frank and with uncurbed plainness, tell us the Dauphin's mind.
Thus then, in few, your highness, lately sending into France, did claim some certain dukedoms in the right of your great predecessor, King Edward III, in answer of which claim, the prince, our master, says that you savor too much of your youth and bids you be advised there's naught in France that can be with a nimble galliard one. You cannot revel into dukedoms there. He therefore sends you, suited for your spirit, this ton of treasure, and in lieu of this, desires you let the dukedoms that you claim hear no more of you. Thus the Dauphin speaks.
What treasure, uncle?
Tennis balls, my liege.
With props, all right. Okay, let's pause here. So what happened so far?
Well, the French ambassador shows up with a message, and King Henry makes it a point to say it's from the Dauphin and not from the king.
Right. Why does he say that?
Well, I guess normally a king would be the one sending a message to like another king. So it sounds like maybe he thinks the message is like less than in some way. Like, I think it's an insult.
Totally. The fact that the response to King Henry isn't coming from the King of France, I think is absolutely an insult to Henry.
Well, and then the message itself is like, you can't shimmy your way or party your way into our country.
I love the way you said that. Yes, he's got those 2 lines. There's not in France that can be with a nimble galliard one. You can't revel into dukedoms there. So the nimble galliard, that's like a light-footed, nimble galliard is a kind of dance. So you can't win us with a little dance. And then literally, you can't party your way into dukedoms here. You can't party your way into lording over our land.
And then in comes the clincher, is what the Dauphin offers as a ton of treasure more suited for Henry. And what is that?
Tennis balls. Are you serious? Man, I didn't even know that they had tennis balls back then.
Well, and the tennis balls, they were kind of made of leather, right? Not like we have them today.
So basically what it overall is, though, it's like a serious insult, right? to have essentially the person who's not yet in charge respond to the king, and then to send him some tennis balls.
Yeah.
A long distance, spit in the face type of dissing, like a total diss, which spitting in the face is like the absolute worst form of disrespect ever in life.
So here's a question. I mean, since we don't know yet, like how should Henry react, or how do you think the French expect him to react, or how would you react? Like, what do you think?
For me, that's a strong insult. I mean, I know how I would have reacted maybe years and years and years ago, but knowing now that I've grown and matured and hold a different position, clearly just like King Henry, right? I would have sent them back. It probably would have came with a strong warning, letting them know like the last laugh is definitely gonna be mine. But this insult, boy, I tell you.
Yeah, man, I think that, when that thing gets opened up and it's those tennis balls in there, I think that Henry, I don't know, his first instinct's probably like to just kick right off. I don't know.
Exactly. And I think because he's being treated like a little boy, in order to get over that, he has to come back with maturity, right?
Yeah.
It's like he has to speak directly to the insult in his being and his actions and his words. It's going to be pretty good here. It's a pretty intense speech, so why don't we take it in parts so it's not all in one voice? And Nikki, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll start us off. We are glad with Dauphin is so pleasant with us. His present and your pains we thank you for. When we have matched our rackets to these balls, we will in France, by God's grace, play a set, shall strike his father's crown into the hazard. And we understand him well, how he comes over us with our wilder days, not measuring what use we made of them.
Oh, yes. This is like some seriously restrained retaliation. It would be so much fun to play this part, to be feeling like wanting to kick it off, but start off with smiles and being well behaved. Like, thank you for the joke. We'll win at this game, actually, of the game of tennis. And oh, by the way, it'll send your daddy's crown all the way out of court. And oh, yeah, and this bit about like, I get why you thought I was someone to play with. You just don't understand what that was all about.
No, not at all. Nope.
Yeah. Yeah, right? It's definitely about to kick off a thing. All right, I'm going to pick it up and read the next bit. But tell the Dauphin, I will keep my state, be like a king, and show my sail of greatness. When I do rouse me in my throne of France, for that I have laid by my majesty and plodded like a man for working days, but I will rise there with so full of glory that I will dazzle all the eyes of France. Yea, strike the Dauphin blind to look on us. Yeah, it's like he's saying, I am the king, but for now I'll stay composed. And sure, back in the day, I was like a regular Joe. I can do that. But I will show you my greatness, and you will be blinded by that light.
Woo! Yeah, between the sail of greatness and rise full of glory stuff, it just seems like he's gonna soar into like the French skies like a god or something.
Right, like totally. A superhero, right?
Totally, I love that. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna read the next bit. And tell the pleasant prince, this mock of his hath turned his balls to gunstones. And his soul shall stand sore charged for the wasteful vengeance that shall fly with them. For many 1,000 widows shall his mock out of their dear husbands, mock mothers from their sons, mock castles down. And some are yet ungotten and unborn that shall have cause to curse the Dauphin's scorn. But this all lies within the will of God, to whom I do appeal, and in whose name tell you the Dauphin, I am coming on, to venge me as I may, and to put forth my rightful hand in a well-hallowed cause. So get you hence in peace, and tell the Dauphin, his jest will savor but of shallow wit, when thousands weep more than did laugh at it. Convey them with safe conduct. Fare you well. And they go.
This was a merry message.
We hope to make the sender blush at it.
Oh, snap.
Oh man, I'd hate to be that messenger. You'd be like the Maxwell tape guy. Do you remember that ad? I'm dating myself here, but he just sat in front of the TV and he just had his hair blown back with like the power of what was coming at him.
I like the way that he, you know, just turns it all back on the Dauphin, and like that, using that word mock. I love that wordplay. Also, man, he's saying it's a wrong move to make fun of me because that little joke is going to cause death and destruction all over your country, and that price will be paid not just by you, Dauphin, by the families who lose husbands and sons and their lands. And he responds with force, Henry, but he uses the language of kind of like understanding of what the real human cost is going to be, which seems to be a price that the Dauphin, he just kind of takes that lightly, and Henry takes that seriously.
And then other little word play. He's got this rhyming couplet. And some are yet ungotten and unborn that shall have cause to curse the Dauphin's scorn. And usually rhymes are at the end of scenes. So this kind of feels to Shakespeare's audience like a mic drop moment.
And then I like that he sends the ambassador like in peace though, because to me that just shows like some restraint, right? And then he has that line about like shallow wit and when thousands weep more than did laugh at it. Like that's heavy. That just makes me think of a whole other thing about like jokes going wrong, or like folks watching could actually think about a time where like describing a time where you thought that you were just making like a little joke, but it really blew up in your face and became like actually something serious.
I love that. Like that feeling about, just consequences, unexpected consequences.
Yeah, right. Who hasn't had that one? You said one thing and it blew up into this whole other thing that you weren't expecting. Let's get back to the main point, though, which is all about King Henry and how we've been talking about expectations have of you because of your past. So if you look at the scene, the Dauphin expects his insult is appropriate because of the reputation that King Henry made for himself when he was a prince, his old reputation, right? Who he used to be. One of the things that often happens in this Reflecting Shakespeare class is a lot of our participants, not all though, are on a journey of deep self-reflection, looking at who they are.
Yeah, I know for me, I mean, I had to do a lot of self-reflection, internal exploration, taking countless classes and facilitating classes on the inside. It was so much work to do, and it's definitely not easy by any means, but the healing that it provides and the places that it will take you is far beyond what I could ever express on this platform right now, for sure.
And, I was just thinking how we asked this question just a few months ago when we were inside and working on this play. And because we didn't get to the point of performing and our participants saying what they wanted to be said out loud with other people present, I don't really feel right about sharing their own words. But just as an overview, I would say that many of the men in our classes could really relate to this aspect of knowing that they had changed and yet still experiencing that change not yet being acknowledged or accepted by their families or friends or officials.
Yeah, I remember actually being in that class with you guys, which was amazing, right? And I know for me, it's taken a long time to redeem myself from the menacing reputation that I had built for myself, even on the inside. But like as I grew and I matured and I wanted to be seen in a different light, I was criticized by everyone and not taken seriously. But I know that for me, I just had to stay persistent with my conduct, with my behavior, with my works, especially in times that were coming up for me to where things could potentially lead me back to my old behaviors. I knew that I just had to stay resilient. I had to push through those times and just it really just helped build my confidence and my esteem for the new way and the new life and the new being that was actually working for me. But one thing I can attest to is it is definitely a process for sure.
And then there's that last part of this whole question, which is about underestimating somebody else's ability to change. And that was also an interesting thing to air out in class. There was one person in one of our groups who wrote very pointedly about his own journey of recovery and change, but then mentioned the fact that he couldn't accept a similar change that was happening with his father. He did acknowledge that there were people in his father's life who didn't know him as an addict and could accept this new version of him, but he just couldn't accept that himself. I guess I just found that touching because it was really honest. Like, he's changed, but I can't get there yet and accept that within my relationship. And another thing that came up in class was people who were just like, I haven't changed or I won't change. And then people who knew them in class being like, dude, I've known you forever. You've totally changed. And having that back and forth about what we see in others, but maybe don't see in ourselves, you know?
Well, and I think sometimes we just have an internal battle in the midst of change. It's like you're so attached. I know we spoke with labels and things that we identify with in one of the episodes, and you become somebody, or you've attached to a name or a label for so long, and trying to understand what life is going to be like without that, and transitioning into what those new decisions are going to be, what that new thought pattern is going to be, what this new life is going to be like, and just being able to accept that and hone into that and own that, and it's definitely a process where other people are able sometimes to see, like, no, you've definitely changed. And then there comes that fear of, not wanting other people maybe even to be able to see you in a different light, because you don't want to be vulnerable, or you don't want to expose yourself in a way that might be different than what we've attached to for so long, which ultimately led to us surviving.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I think of that.
I was thinking of one particular participant who was so actively involved with this, I would say, mysterious journey about change. And he was always looking for, well, what is this new thing that's coming at me? So now that I am trying to change, how am I going to respond to this? And he spoke so beautifully about how he thought that he had been in the process of change, but then he had like this aha moment watching Dr. Phil, who was saying no one can change unless you're fed up with who you were. And he was like, oh, I haven't been fed up with that. So yeah, am I fed up with that? And it was only after he really wrestled with that he started making huge changes in his life. And I just thought it was fantastic that he could identify that one particular influence.
Speaking from the truth, let me tell you, Dr. Phil had led me to many of self-exploration insights and aha moments. Well, I guess we definitely got a whole lot out of that scene for sure.
Right.
Okay, well, that wraps it up. That is our episode 4. So let's check out a class today.
All right, we're going to do one word checkout.
I feel free.
Cheery.
Change. All right, everyone watching, you can share yours. Thank you.
Awesome. So we'll do what we do, and hopefully we'll get this right. Okay, so let's do a count out. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and we'll clap on the 4th beat. Hopefully you guys inside will be able to clap with us. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you.
Bye, everybody. See you next time. Thank you so much for watching.
See you next time.
If you would like to share your reflections with us so that we can share them on a future episode highlighting community responses, please go to https://bit.ly/RSTV EP4. That's RSTV in capitals and EP in lowercase. Thank you.